All right, it says I'm live. Now, I know a lot recently I've been fighting specifically for men's rights. But also, there's a lot of those men's rights advocacy places that I've been listening to, those men's rights channels on YouTube, and they're not any better than these sexist female groups. It's still sexist. Now, I understand that, at least two or three of them that I was listening to, it's satire. They do the same thing I do. They get sick and tired of 400 posts from women about how selfish men are and how superficial men are from the exact same women that everybody complains about, the gold diggers who are always causing drama. How this hypocrisy only works one way, how it's okay for one gender and not the other. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that women don't have to go through hell of their own. And that's what I've been trying to impress upon everybody. It's not about who's the bigger victim, it's about stopping the predators. And we are not stopping the predators. We're too busy at each other's throats. When it comes to sexual predators, men speak up and they're told by women that they need to shut up, and because women are statistically abused more than men, so these men are treated like they need to take a back seat. No, they're victims too. They are victims too. There are 29 million men in the United States who are victims of sexual assault before turning 18. Now, when it comes to women who are abused, you know, people people turn a blind eye to it, and there's a very big reason why. We have so many women out there who want to play head games, who see some advantage in destroying an innocent man's life by making false accusations, and people just don't want to deal with it. Now, if the man's easy to victimize, sure, they'll do something about it. If he's not easy to get a hold of, say he's a rich senator's son, yeah, he's not likely to get in any trouble for it. And if he does, it'll be 40 years down the road. Sorry, I'm sweating a bit. It is warm in this vehicle. Now, obviously, I do speak out a lot about specific groups of women. The groups of women who gang up together to destroy an innocent man's life. But there are innocent women out there too who are being victimized. Seriously, think about it. How do you fall down the stairs in a one-story modular? You know, a lot of women who are abused, it's the same situation as when the police abuse you. You get beaten up by your husband, he takes away your keys to the car, takes away your telephone, and locks you in the house until your bruises go away. You get beaten up by the police. Same thing. They take away your vehicle, take away your telephone, and lock you up until your bruises go away. Now, I do talk a lot about how there's a lot more services for women than there are for men. But then I also see a lot of women who should be eligible for those services being denied those services. And I see a lot of women who have a lot of help who are getting those services. Women who really are not eligible for them, but they got connections. And yeah, there's a lot of women out there who will do horrible things when they find out that they're pregnant. But that doesn't mean that every deadbeat out there is not actually a deadbeat. You know why they call them deadbeat dads? Because you can beat them to death, you're still never going to get your money. But we've also had, especially recently, a lot more deadbeat moms. And they're making it tough for all of us, not just women, also for men. And this does affect all of us. When we have groups of vigilante women wanting to destroy a man's life because a woman didn't get what she wanted, we've got a major problem. When men have to be afraid to go to the police when they're abused by their girlfriend, their wife, their spouse, we've got a major problem. When the police blow us off until people are dead, we've got a major problem. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to get around to it all because my computer will eventually overheat. Here's something I wrote today. Modern woke America seems to think the only thing we males feel is horny. The fact that so many murders and suicides are as a direct result of this line of thinking shows that we really have no place to pass judgment on Russia or Ukraine. It's like the meth head calling the crackhead an addict. Now, another thing that I posted up is, let's see, right click, copy link address. We'll post this up so you guys can look at it. Now, this is about a girl who, oh God, that's too long apparently. I'm sorry, folks. Come on. Apparently, I have to backspace over 400. Oh, yeah, it doesn't work on this computer. Fucking bullshit. I got to pull out my keyboard to make that work. So I guess I'll just get down to it. It says these bullies don't know that the girl they are bullying will ruin their lives forever. Now, what happened is, and mind you, this movie is about a different culture. And the way that girls are treated there is it's a lot worse than it is here, that's for certain. What's expected of girls is a lot different than what's expected here. And that doesn't make what's happening here okay. That's not what the point is at all. Now, this girl, she's getting bullied by these other girls, and the way that she's getting bullied could get her killed by her family in this country. Not America, but the country this video takes place in. And these girls just keep on bullying her and posting it up on social media, which in their country could get her killed, like I said, by her own family. Now she goes out and she gets revenge against these girls. Now it's difficult to actually call it revenge given what those girls put her through. She put those girls through the things that they had put her through. That's the thing, is that this young woman did not deserve what she went through. But people treated her like crap for it. And when she got her revenge, I can't even call it revenge because it made the point. Those things very easily could have happened to the girl who was being bullied. Now, at the end of the movie, one of her bullies is killed by her brother, killed by her own brother. Like I said, the things that they did to her could get her killed by her own family in that country. And the girl who was bullying her ended up getting killed by her own brother. Obviously, it's the same country. Now, looking at it, a lot of the bullying and a lot of the crap that all of those people go through is crap that I've had to go through, or very similar. And the fears are very similar too. The fear of harm to my loved ones, the fear of harm to my family, the fear of being victimized over people's opinions. And that's what all of my victimization has been over is people's opinions. People don't want to look at the truth. The courts don't want to look at the evidence. The police don't want to look at the evidence. Why would they? What incentive do they have? I don't matter. When it came to people getting informed and showing up to court and speaking up, they just simply didn't. Nobody tried to get informed. Some people did show up to court, but they were not informed. What good are they going to do? And like Graham, when he went to court with me, he didn't even pay attention to what was going on. Like, what's the point in him showing up if he's not going to pay attention? He did pay attention when I went to go see my public pretender. Now, the things that I'm going through are not exclusive to men. Even though there's a lot of services for women, that doesn't mean that those women who need it the most actually have that access. We got a lot of women all over the United States who are disappearing, and you just don't give a fuck. And then you guys watch a movie about bullying and you feel bad for the people in the movie, but then people in real life are getting bullied right in front of your own eyes and you do nothing. You're watching the movie and talking about, I'd have done this and I'd have done that and I'd have done this and I'd have done that. And in real life, yeah, you didn't do any of those things, did you? No, you just watched. You watched the sexism. You watched the racism. Part of the reason that I'm referencing this movie that I don't even know the name of is because women in that country, that's how women in this country used to be treated. That's how it used to be in the good old US of A. And it took men fighting for women's rights, for women to actually get them. Thank goodness men fought for their rights. Now we need women to fight for men's rights. And I've been seeing on these websites and these Facebook groups and YouTube groups and the like, where it's people who are fighting for men's rights and people who are fighting for women's rights, and both sides are equally sexist. That's not helping any of us out. That's not helping the victims of sexual abuse. That's not helping the victims of physical abuse, financial abuse, or systemic abuse. Victims at each other's throats does not help us. And that's what I've been trying to show. I've also been trying to show that the things that I was told are not illegal for people to do to me, they're somehow magically illegal if I do them. And I haven't even done the bad stuff. Think on that. I know I talk about a lot of the men that I know who have been through hell. But there's a lot of women that I know who have been through hell too. I rescued people. That's what I did. Men and women and children, of course. I wasn't sexist about who I rescued. Sometimes people tell you their horror story or their shatter story when their lives were shattered. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they say, hey, man, I got to move on Saturday. I don't have anybody else that can help. Can you show up and help? Yeah. At least I used to be able to. Now, there's some more on here, of course. I just said moron. Ah, yes, I was going to talk about this other feller. There's another feller who, he fights for men's rights, but he's also a woman hater, and he's also got a channel that's dedicated to macking on women. He calls himself a professional pickup artist, and then he makes all of these things where he's picking up women. He's also gay. So, I mean, basically, what his advice is to treat women like shit if you want them to be attracted to you. Well, I already knew that. I already knew that. Pretend like she's uninteresting. Look the other way. Just completely ignore her. She's not worth your time. And somehow, magically, she wants to be worth your time. And that's not the same with every woman. Some women will leave you the hell alone, but some of them crave that attention. They have to have the attention of somebody who's angry at them or mad at them. And a lot of that comes from how they were raised. Some people are raised to believe that physical abuse is love. Some people are raised to believe that sex is love. Now, this professional Mac artist, and also the feller that I just tried to reference over here, it says it's got 479 characters, and it'll only allow you 200 characters, so I can't even post the link. However, they say a lot of things in those groups, even while fighting for men's rights, even though they do say a lot of things that I agree with. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything or that I have to support everything that they say. One of those guys, he tried making the claim that men only, experience intimacy through sex, basically. And that is entirely not true. I mean, the way that he said it, because I didn't use his exact words, I'm trying to think of his exact words because it is pretty important, especially in the context he used it in. Basically, bonding. He said that men only bond during sex. That is not true. Most of our bonding is not sexual. Now, there's this idea that the only emotion that men have, the only feeling that they have is horny and lust. Really. So men are incapable of love. Now, there's Melanie Martinez. She's got a movie called K-12. And in that movie, there's some guys who are making fun of her for being the softer gender. And then she pipes up with this superiority complex, trying to insinuate that women are more emotionally advanced. They're not. They're truly not. Each person, how they advance emotionally, comes down to the individual. Women are not superior, as Melanie Martinez stated. She was saying that it makes women superior. No, it doesn't. Matter of fact, a lot of women are perpetuating the idea that men should not be allowed to have nor express emotions. If a man expresses emotions, it must mean that he's weak. And a lot of the women who say that men should be allowed to express emotions end up doing horrible things when a man does. Natalie Bollinger and the messengers between her, you can see the messages. You know, she says, "Don't apologize for having feelings, hon." Then, for an entire year after she made that statement to me, I was victimized for an entire year over emotions I didn't even have. Over Natalie Bollinger. And it is truly hell. But then I often, because this is the way my brain works, I think of other people's perspectives, the situations that they're in, the situation Natalie was in, situation with her family. And after her family, most of them contacting me after Natalie was killed to harass me and threaten me and fuck with my head. I fully support Natalie and her assisted suicide. Natalie was good to me in real life. She was shitty to me over other people's opinions, like her family. Because of my gender, I'll never be heard. I need a pretty white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl to speak up for me. That right there. At this point, that's about the only thing that'll get me heard. A pretty, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl to speak for me. Because I'm obviously not heard by the police. I'm obviously not heard by the courts. Now, some of y'all will try to make the argument that, there's videos of me talking to the police, so obviously the police did something. They showed up. That's all they did was show up. They didn't even make a show of it beyond that. They didn't bother to try to investigate or even talk to any of these other individuals. And why would they? Now, there's a lot of women who have had to suffer because of what I've been going through. A lot of people that I would have been able to rescue before. And here's why people like me are so important. Some people have families that think that the government is supposed to take care of this. And of course, the government, you can go through my videos, their idea keeps on being to have my family or my friends do something. My family and my friends think it's the government's job. The government thinks it's my family and my friends' job. And in reality, in order to get any of them to do anything, I need to get them to work together. And that's what my autism advocate was helping me with. When I was arrested in January of 2020 for trying to turn in Leslie Snell, who is one of my predators, Robert Warnick, who is one of my predators, William Barr, who is one of my predators, and of course, Sheriff Scott Costa, who is one of my predators. All right, there was something in here I was going to pull out, but I suppose it ain't that important. I guess it is. My keyboard. If I plug in my keyboard, I can back that stuff up and hopefully try to go directly to the YouTube channel and download it from there. It should be less than 200. I tried to take it from my Facebook, which is why it's over 400. Maybe this will work. Sorry, I'm not real experienced at doing this with the mouse on here and also the external keyboard here. It makes everything a big pain in the butt. Now, I know I speak out a lot about women who make false allegations, but that doesn't mean that all women make false allegations. Most of the time, it's the dad. Most of the time, the dad gets away with it because they're family. The victim doesn't want to get in trouble for breaking up the family. One girl that I knew, she was being raped by her dad, and she tried telling her mom, and her mom wouldn't listen. And then her mom found out that it was actually true, but she didn't want to turn in her husband. Instead, she got jealous of her daughter, accused her daughter of seducing the man. I want you to think about what that feels like. Just like with Natalie's mother, Rose M. Kelly, aka Rose M. Self, with her choosing alcoholic men who beat on her over her own kids. Men who were court ordered to stay away from her and her kids. And she had these men staying with her. Rose Kelly admitted what a horrible person Ted Bollinger is. So did Danica. So did Rochelle Shelley Campbell. These are three of Ted Bollinger's ex-wives. I can't trust their judgment when it comes to men, and neither should have Natalie. Obviously, they have horrible taste in men. Obviously, they can't tell shit about a person's character because they keep going for men like that. See, it's not the men who established a pattern of abuse in that particular situation or those particular situations. It was women who established a pattern of abuse. Now, I'm not trying to victim shame or victim blame, but they were cherry picking for bad boys. You wanted the guy who had the drugs. You got Ted Bollinger. And then he abused you. When Rose left Ted, she went and had a string of other abusive men. Did men do this to her? No. Very specific men victimized her. Very specific. Not all men. And for damn assuredly not Sean Schwartz. Now, just because women like that exist, just because there are so many druggy women out there who will pull fucked up shit, doesn't mean that all women are druggies, and it doesn't even mean that all of the druggies who make that claim are liars. A lot of guys will feed a woman drugs with the intent and purpose of getting her fucked up and having sex with her. We all know this. We're not stupid. And with so many women being denied services, being forced out onto the streets in record numbers, it's horrible for all of us. Every time somebody victimizes one of those women, especially if it's a homeless person, it reflects badly on all of the homeless people. You say, I shouldn't judge cops as a group, I should judge them individually. But they don't judge us individually. As a homeless person, you're a homeless person. You don't matter. That's as simple as it is. I will not blindly follow the law. I will look at the potential consequences before making my decisions. I have, I do, and I will continue to do so. And I will continue to rescue both men and women. A lot of these men's groups that stick up for men, they don't do us any good. Because in the end, they're sexist. There's a reason that Roma Army, ROMAARMY, is one of the sites that I go to when it comes to men's rights. It's because she's not being sexist towards women. She's not saying that people should get violent. She understands that when somebody is victimized, that their predators have a name. It's not men. It's not women. If John beat the shit out of you, John beat the shit out of you. If Rebecca beat the shit out of you, Rebecca beat the shit out of you. Your victims have names. If Alex makes false allegations, Alex is the one who did that. Not all men named Alex, or all women named Alex, or all people named Alex. And yes, I picked a bi-gender name there for a reason. There's a lot of women who are against women's rights. There's a lot of women in the United States who are very, what do they call that, conservative Christian, where they believe that a woman is supposed to be subservient to the man. The man is the head of the household, and what he says goes. That's tough for me to handle. I want equality for all, including the disabled, including the homeless, including black people, including immigrants, and including, of course, women. And I get to hear so many horrible stories that have happened to these women. I've also got to be out on the streets to know that these things do happen. There was a guy I talked about after Natalie was killed. His name's Bug Out. And he ended up stabbing somebody over a shitty pair of pants. Well, they let him out. And yesterday I found out that he's in jail in Louisiana for attempted murder because he stabbed somebody else. Bug Out grew up in the system. He's also kind of little. Where he's coming from is a different world that you guys ain't even coming close to understanding. You're not capable because you didn't grow up in it. Yes, I speak out a lot about feminism and fake feminism and sexism and how it's socially acceptable depending upon your gender here in the United States. But at the same time, I stand for the victims. I fight for the victims, and that's the point of all of this. Your skin color does not determine whether or not you are more or less of a person than anyone else, or whether or not you are more or less of a victim than somebody else. If there's a black woman and a white man who are both raped by a senator, should they be at each other's throats, or should they be trying to have that senator locked up? They should be working together to see that senator locked up. That's what they should be doing. Now, that lady from Roma Army, she's a woman who speaks up for men's rights, and we do need that. We've got a lot of men speaking up for women's rights. We get to hear all day, every day about how horribly women are treated. Many of us get to see it with our own two eyes. But there's just a few of us who don't turn a blind eye to the exact same things happening to men. We need to fight for women's rights to be safe. At the same time, all of us need to understand that we cannot make a woman's decisions for her. I can't be there to make sure that none of my female friends go to a party and get all drunk and have unconsensual or consensual sex with another human being. I can't do that. I'd have to be in 500 places at once. Now, obviously, according to our laws in the United States, even if she consents while she's drunk, it's still considered rape. The difference is, does she turn it in or not? In a lot of these situations, something can be done before the damage is done, but not always. In my situation with trying to turn in my predators and knowing how the police treat victims in this country, preventative measures needed to be in place. And those preventative measures needed to be someone there with me in person so that the cops would take the situation seriously and they hadn't for over a year. Now, obviously, it took 7 months for anybody to do anything. I literally had to break the law because those preventative measures, nobody actually attempted them. I had to continually go in by myself over and over and over and over again and get treated the same way over and over and over again. And people in law enforcement tell me those things are not illegal for law enforcement to do to me. And then I get to see all over the news how there's law enforcement officers being locked up in prison, and there are $1 million judgments against the police for doing those exact same things. They only did them to these other people once. They did them to me repeatedly over the last 6 years. So you can sell me your bullshit all you want. But the fact is, just because I have a penis doesn't mean that I can't be a victim. The fact is, the labels that they hold over my head prevent me from being treated like a human being. And the fact is, I don't want other people being treated like that, regardless of their gender, regardless of their age, regardless of where they were born. I'm not going to hate somebody just because they're from Russia. I'm not going to hate someone just because they're Ukrainian. I'm not going to hate someone just because they were born in the United States. I'm not going to hate someone just because their skin color is different than mine. I'm not going to hate someone for having a different religion than me. But I can sure as hell hate how they act towards other human beings and how they treat other human beings and how they change the rules based on who it is. A lot of these sites that are claiming that they're fighting for men's rights, not by hating women the way that they do, that doesn't help any of us. But thank goodness, most of these sites speak up about the fact that false accusations hurt everyone. They make the real victims less likely to be heard. And we all need to work together to put a stop to it. Not just for women, not just for children, not just for the disabled, not just for black people. We need to establish loud and clear that wrong is wrong, regardless of any of those things, regardless of how much money you have. If you can buy yourself out of jail, then it's not equality. A lot of women, they pull this, oh, well, us girls got to stick together stuff and outright destroy a man's life over one person who outright lied. Just one. But at the same time, many of these women have been taught that that's the only way that they can get justice. Sure, when you help out that other woman who, has a problem with her cheating husband or with her husband who abuses her, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's a situation where he said no and she couldn't handle it. Sometimes it's a situation where a girl has a severe crush on a man and can't take no for an answer. We need to stick up for women's rights because it's also standing up for our own, but it has to be rights and not privileges. If a woman can get away with it and a man can't, it's a privilege.